Coming to you live from my apartment, it's Rob Has a Podcast. And now here's the guy who seldom knows the power of positive thinking, Rob Cesternino. Hello, everybody, and welcome to talking about BBUK with my buddy, the tabulator, Kurt Clark. Kurt, how are you doing? And hopefully I will not engage in any recidivist behavior tonight.
I'm doing great. I was talking with one of my friends like right before we were broadcasting Katie, and she was saying how she was glad that Marlon asked Pauline to define what she meant by recidivist behavior.
Kurt Clark name dropping his female friends. Whoa. There you go. Kurt, I like your shirt also.
It's not quite plaid; it's squares, but it's as close as I got.
I have a few shirts like that. I feel it's technically more checkered than plaid, but I think we'll allow it.
Okay.
We'll allow it. All right. Anyway, so we're talking about BBUK and what a week it was, the first week of BBUK. And, it's the slow season on RHAP in between, sort of like halfway in between Survivor and Big Brother. So I've been following the BBUK this week. Kurt's going to be following it all summer long here for us on Rob Has a Podcast. And so Kurt is going to keep a very close and watchful eye on it. Last week, of course, we covered the premiere last weekend with Ian Terry. Ian is in the midst of moving right now, so that he's not available to talk about any Big Brother with us at this time. But Kurt and I are going to hold down the fort here, and we are going to take your questions here. We got the chat room open on robhasawebsite.com. Plus, we've also got the hashtag RHAP, which you can use, and also you can post your questions on YouTube. And I'd like to hear from you guys as it's eviction night here. This is like Big Brother UK know-it-alls, Kurt.
Yeah, and there's a lot to know for this first week. I mean, every night it's something going on.
Yeah. So I've tried to do my best to keep up with everything happening during the week. But there was basically, we've seen, 8 or 9 hours of BBUK so far, and I haven't even watched the BTS, or what do you call the other show? There's the BTS
Bit on
show.
the side.
Yeah.
BOTS, bit on the side.
Okay, yeah. I have not watched that show.
Yeah,
just the highlight shows.
Yeah, same here. I only watched the bit on the side for the 2 launch nights, and I know tonight they announced at the very beginning of the highlight show who the new power player is. It kind of came out of nowhere a little bit, so I'm guessing that sometime on bit on the side they announced the voting and they announced that was going on. So there's that.
Okay, so let's get into talking about some BBUK here on a Friday night here on Rob Has a Podcast. Just 2 happening guys talking about another country's Big Brother on a Friday night live. And thank you guys so much for joining us. No, I didn't do a great job of promoting that we were doing this, but we have a very strong turnout for sort of a spur of the moment thing.
Yeah, especially since if there are any actual UK-based fans watching, it's 3 in the morning there now. So I'm guessing most of these people are probably the U.S.
Okay, so they can check it out when they wake up. And, of course, we will get hardcore into BBUS coverage in just about 12 days when that kicks off on Wednesday, June 25th. And probably sometime next week we'll have our cast preview show with Brian Lynch and get into everything with the BBUS. But first, let's talk about the BBUK. And so, Kurt, let's talk about the top stories at this hour. We had our first live eviction, and if you haven't seen it, we're going to spoil it, so be ready, everybody. So we had our first live eviction, and I'm shocked that Tamara, the sun will not come out tomorrow, Kurt, that she is gone and the first person evicted, and I was floored. I would have ranked the people that were going home. I would have said Danielle was one, then Jolly, and then Tamara was going to be the third person. But I have not been following what people are saying on social media, so I had no idea that I went way off on my perceptions of what was going on in the outside world.
I haven't been following what's been going on in the UK, but I had some discussions on the Rob Has a Website board around our premiere launch, and I think I actually called this one there. I saw, I think Jaleh was being perceived as being picked on in the house. So I was pretty sure that she was going to stay, and she seemed to have a good reaction from the audience when she came in on launch night. I wasn't completely sure between Danielle and Tamara. Both of them got booed, but it was I think the difference was Danielle has kind of worldviews that nobody agrees with, well, not in a way, but that very few people agree with. But in the house, she was largely pleasant to people except to Helen, whereas Tamara, her one-on-one relationship with people in the house and how she treated people was probably less smiled upon. So
Yeah, but why didn't the viewers like Tamara? Like, I can understand why people in the house didn't like Tamara, but why did people that were watching the show, and specifically the people of the UK, why did they not like Tamara? Because she got so drunk?
I think early in the week, she and Helen were kind of forming a little bit of a Mean Girls thing, and just like some of the catty comments that they were saying about the other girls. She kind of, as Emma pointed out during her interview with Tamara, she noticed that Tamara kind of backed away from Helen as Helen became a little bit more vocal. That might not have helped her. I think what might have actually helped Danielle was the fact that they showed her trying to apologize to Helen, and Helen basically not having anything to do with it, and I think that might have actually given some more sympathy to Danielle.
Did you feel like that there was just a backlash against Helen, and that Tamara was sort of the recipient of the backlash against Helen, that she was so closely aligned with Helen?
In the early parts of the week, that's what I had thought. And then I wondered if the target might shift to Danielle because of some of her behavior, because she came a little bit more vocal. But then she actually acknowledged in the diary room, I need to apologize. I'm not normally like that. And she tried to and was turned down by Helen. I think that, like I said, that might have built up some sympathy for Danielle.
Yeah. Now, do you feel like people that dislike Helen, is it completely for her behavior in the house, or is her past, her scandalous past, maybe combined with getting the pass all the way to the end of the game, which came from Pauline, who's also not popular? Which of these factors do you think is the biggest reason why that she has been so disliked by people who watch the show?
I personally think it's her behavior in the house. When she came in on launch night, and she was actually received pretty positively. Especially she came in after Tamara. I think it was like Tamara, then Mark, and then Helen. And Tamara was getting booze based on her package. But Helen's package was pretty positive. She alluded to the fact that she had a public affair, or an affair with a public figure. But she was still positively received by the audience then. It might be that her behavior in the house is fueled a little bit by the fact that she's safe until the end. Maybe she feels a little bit free to blow up at people or to say some things knowing it's not going to impact her ability to make it to the finals. But I really do think it's based on her behavior in the house.
So she got into the big fight with Danielle during the week. And yes. The closing line of that fight, basically, she said, like, why don't you go and get airbrushed and you're a fat cow? Something to that extent, right?
Something to that extent, yeah. And
there was definitely the word airbrushed and fat in there.
Right. And I'm feeling a little bit with BB UK, I think like how you must have felt with BB Canada, where you weren't sure if the term for people from Newfoundland was actually derogatory or not, and whether you should say it. Like, for instance, apparently slag is a very bad thing to say to somebody in the UK. I would not have I mean, that's what blew up for Danielle. But
now,
yeah,
if you tell somebody to go get airbrushed, what does that mean? Because how does a person get airbrushed?
I think Helen had been drinking.
Yeah.
But I think it was the reference to the fact that Danielle is a model, does modeling as well, and it was just a commentary from Helen about her perception on Danielle's beauty, that she must be airbrushed probably or something like that. I'm
so confused about Danielle because, she has this perception on the show where she's like, lads will be lads, but, there's all this sex talk and it's bothering her so much. Everybody's talking about, all these women's reproductive parts and everything. And she's so offended about everything. But then, Kurt, don't ask me how I know this, but then she has all these nude photos on the internet. So what gives with Danielle? Are you going to tell me that everything that she did was tastefully done?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
And when I say tastefully done, I mean that she's being photographed nude with whipped cream on her bosom.
Well, that's not technically nude then, right? I mean, I'm technically nude right now with clothes on, so it's just whipped cream, clothes. Yeah, I don't know. And there was another conversation she was having about her perceptions on same-sex marriage and how she's not opposed to civil unions. She's just opposed to uh, the marriage in like a religious sense between two people because the church vows it. But her personally, she has nothing against civil unions. So she's a whole lot of enigmas rolled up into one package.
Yeah. Hold on. This just in. Luke Forrest says she didn't say airbrush rolling on the floor laughing. That according to Mark Zink in the chat room, she said hairbrush. Okay. Does that make more sense? Get a hairbrush and you're a fat cow. How about that? Does that make more sense?
My mind's going in places it shouldn't be going in regards to the hairbrush.
Oh, no.
So, British slang. Maybe that's like some of that rhyming Cockney slang that I'm still trying to Rosetta Stone my way out of.
Okay. All right. So Tamara is the first one out. This is some people are helping us fill in the pieces. Okay. So this is from Olivia, and Olivia says the reason why Tamara was hated was Pauline and Winston. Okay. So what? People hated her because of Winston too, because she had a showmance going on?
You see, that often
is Winston hated?
I didn't get the sense that Winston was hated, and if anything, I was less certain about Tamara leaving as the week progressed. The more she actually entered into a showmance with Winston, because he seems very, again, to me, he seems very just genuine and likable, if not a bit of a doofus. He reminds me a lot of Maddie from Big Brother 9. The season that shall not be named. But yeah, he reminds me of Maddie from that season a little bit. So I was thinking that actually the Tamara Winston thing might help her, because in the past on BB UK, you've often seen that a legitimate showmance might help things.
Now, at what point did people get to vote on this? Did they vote during the episode being aired? Because I would have thought that the showmance stuff would have helped Tamara's case.
No, I think it would have, and I think from the moment that nominations were finalized, like throughout the week, people have been able to vote. So at least, let's see, I want to say at least since Monday, people have been voting.
Okay, so they were voting all week.
Yeah, it wasn't just tonight.
Okay, all right. Well, so. Yeah, this is tricky because, and then at what point did the people in the House find out that they were on the block?
So the nominations, the nominations happened on Sunday, but I believe that they weren't told until Monday who was nominated.
Okay, and do the players change their behavior based on being nominated?
Some do, some don't. It's weird in the UK version. They talk about people, quote unquote, playing the game, and someone being a game player, which I think it translates into them trying to portray somebody that they're perhaps not really, that's not really who they are, in order to progress further in the game, which seems perfectly legitimate to me, to be completely honest, if you're going into this to win it. So I think you do sometimes see people trying to change their perception of them based on if they get nominated, or based on the audience reaction during the live shows. That's something else that you see.
Let's talk about Pauline, who got a big reaction at the live show tonight, Kurt. Were you surprised that the audience was cheering, "Get Pauline out! Get Pauline out!"
Having watched the previous shows, not surprised that the audience was chanting. Lots of times when they go through and they read the names of the nominees, they kind of do so the audience can either like cheer or boo. Usually they'll have the audience chanting in regards to one of the people who's on the block, but very occasionally you will get them pushing for somebody they just don't like in general, even the person's not nominated that week. So it didn't surprise me a whole lot, to be honest.
Now, why has the public turned so much on Pauline? Is it because of the whole Jolie thing?
I think it is. She just doesn't seem. My personal impression is that she doesn't seem to be giving certain people any sort of a fair break. She doesn't seem to listen. Like today's episode, which was featuring some of the stuff that happened yesterday.
Hey, Kurt, what did I just say? What did I just say, Kurt? What did I just say?
I'd appreciate it if you would listen.
What did I just say, Kurt? What did I say?
In my mind, what you
Being
said.
recidivist.
It was like she wasn't listening. Jaleh was trying to speak very calmly and to kind of get a point across to her, and Pauline just does not seem to want to listen. And I don't think it helped matters. Like Christopher pointed out that when Pauline had her first power lunch, where she could invite 3 people for a special lunch, and those people would get their luggage, that 2 of the 3 people she chose were Mark and Helen, 2 people she's already rewarded in some way. And I'm just surprised at how much of a turnaround, because I thought during the launch episode I knew for a fact Pauline was going to be voted day 1 to be the person who gets that power, and she just does not come off as a rational, likable person to me.
Yeah, that Tammy Hughes says, my opinion of someone has never flipped so sharply in 1 week as it has with Pauline. Oh no.
Tammy, if I had a bell, I would ring it. That's exactly what I thought. And I think also the flip side of that is Chris, the actor on who came in on night 2.
Yeah, how did Chris go from? How did he become such a fan favorite?
He isn't, unless they're showing some things a bit on the side I'm not seeing, or if there's like some live. I don't think they have 24/7 live feeds there, but they have some live stuff like each evening, a little bit more like Showtime After Dark. But unless they're showing some stuff there, he hasn't gotten a lot of airtime this week. He's been kind of a listener. There is this kind of group that's formed of, I think, Kimberly and Jaleh and Ashley and Chris and Christopher who are kind of outsiders, but it's a large group of outsiders, which is kind of the funny thing. But Pauline hated him and Jaleh from day 1, and then Helen and Tamara were talking trash about him, but then Helen and him, regrouped and got on better terms, and until on the nomination night, he was the last person to receive nomination. Like, Stephen hadn't voted yet. Stephen was the only person who hadn't voted, and at that point, Chris was the only person with no nominations at all. And it wasn't until Steve voted last that Chris received a nomination. So,
tell me the truth right now, Kurt. Okay? Did you say to somebody, I'm not going to say who, that you were going to call me a bastard and piss in my kitchen?
Again, I can either. Would you just listen? I don't get why people do these on their packages.
Yeah. No. Why do they call them a VT? What is
videotapes? I think it's videotapes.
Okay, got it.
Someone in the chat room will let us know.
Yeah. And so, have they ever done that before? Do they let other people screen them?
Yeah, occasionally. I remember on for instance, like Celebrity Big Brother UK a couple seasons ago. There was kind of the main house, and then there was almost like a have-not house, and people would come in pairs, and the 2 people who were already in the house would watch these 2 people get introduced, and they have to invite somebody into the main house and banish somebody to the have-not house, and so they kind of got to see all of the introductions then as well. And I think something else that you'll commonly see is for her to get her luggage, Kimberly had to read verbatim her nominations from the diary room, and so it's that sort of shit that that sort of stuff that I love in regards to BBUK. I think we mentioned it before. And Ian said it's a lot of messing with the house guests, and so I think the fact that she had to do that was great.
Emily M says Pauline is going home because she can't let go of Chicken Gate. Well, hold on, Kurt. Did Jaleh take too much chicken? Yes or no?
I will say that in Pauline's mind, Jaleh took too much chicken. Even though the moment that Jaleh sat down, Ash said, "I have more chicken than you do." But it wasn't so much the fact that she took the chicken; it was Jaleh's response to being accused of having taken the chicken.
Do you like Jaleh?
I do. I personally do. She reminds me of some people that I know. I guess I don't know. It's interesting listening to Pauline talk to Danielle and apologize to Danielle today, because I think Pauline is basically telling Danielle, "You're probably going to go home because my conversation with Jaleh, she was able to make herself look like a victim." And I don't think Jaleh is actually making herself look like a victim. I think I feel like she's actually getting a little bit bullied by Pauline, and I don't know. I like her understated, calm behavior, and I always root for the underdog. And plus, she handled the whole being nominated every week pretty nicely, especially compared to how Danielle reacted to being nominated just that one week.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge Pauline fan, but I'm really not a huge Jolie fan. I just feel like she's going to be like, always feeling like somebody's picking on her. I do feel like she does play the victim quite a bit, and I feel like even if Pauline goes out of the house, she's, all season long, Jolie is going to find somebody that's always on her case.
That'll be interesting to see, because I'm pretty sure, given the crowd reaction, unless some twist happens where one of the nominees is able to remove themselves from the block, I'm pretty sure Pauline will be going home this week. And if she does, it'll be interesting to see. I think the only other person I can speak definitively that Jaleh has conflict with seems to be Toya. They seem to actually go at it a little bit, and I'm still not really sure what they were going at it about. But it'll be interesting to see how Jaleh reacts.
Yeah, there's a few fights and feuds in the house of people that just don't like each other, which I don't totally understand. But let's try to see how many of these things that we can cover. This is from Everett Johnson, who wants to know, do you think that Chris was right putting up Pauline? Now, I've seen in the chat room a couple people saying that Chris was really smart because he put up Pauline because he heard that the crowd wanted her gone.
He nominated her earlier today, and they just reviewed that now. So he was in. So at one point, he was in the special Japanese bathroom, and Big Brother kind of came onto him with a loudspeaker.
Is that what it's called?
That's what I'm calling it. Because he got a Japanese toilet. Those things are awesome.
Well, you travel the world like a real Jason Derulo.
What can I say?
You're tabulating all over the world.
Yeah.
Lipstick stains on your calculator.
I can neither confirm nor deny again. But that was revealed. That was something that happened earlier today, I believe, that he revealed who his vote was for. So it wasn't until the live show that they announced what that was. So he wasn't. If anything, he's feeling pretty smart. Excuse me, for having probably made that nomination prior to having heard the crowd chanting. But he was out there that morning and it's always hard to remember because what we're seeing today happened yesterday. So I'm actually really looking forward to tomorrow's episode where we'll get to see what happened after the live show.
Tomorrow's episode was today, Kurt. She's gone.
Yes, but we'll also get to see the fallout, what happens afterwards. So what people reacting.
So when will we get to see the episode with the fallout?
Tomorrow.
No, that was tonight's episode, Kurt. She's gone.
Tonight we saw the live eviction. Tomorrow we'll get to see the taped eviction and the taped reaction.
They're going to show it to her?
You're being recidivist.
Oh, okay, all right. I don't want to be recidivist.
Long story short is that when Pauline and Jaleh were having their big, and when I call them Pauline and Jaleh, it makes it sound much classier than this actually is. But when Pauline and Jaleh were having their fight in the morning, Chris was there with them. It was the three of them that were out there, and I think that Chris is pretty savvy in terms of who seems to be calling the shots in the house or who's not giving people a fair shake.
How's the Big Brother power trip twist working for you?
I really like it. It has little bits of it remind me. I think they might have borrowed bits of it from the whatever it was that Alyssa Riley kept getting last year.
The MVP.
The MVP. There's little bits of that in terms of getting to make a nomination in secret, at least especially with Chris's power this week. But people have always had, often had secret powers in the past. I'm thinking when or secret tasks, like when Winston was taking Tamara out for that date in the Sky Pod in today's episode. Her very first thought was, "You're on a secret task right now, aren't you?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I personally think it's working out really well. And it also I like the paranoia that is breeding in the house. It's like what would have happened had the saboteur twist actually worked.
Ooh, who knows?
Who
Who
knows?
knows? Um, this is from Rich. He's saying on the bits on the side, they had a poll on their app asking if Chris made the right decision by nominating Pauline. 94% said yes, she's going for sure. All right, so Pauline is the next one to go home.
Yeah, again, unless there's some sort of like Jaleh is already nominated. If Chris nominates, for instance, 3 more people, then there could very well be some sort of competition or something where one of those 3 people gets to remove themselves from the block. Maybe we as an audience don't necessarily know ahead of time.
It's like Pauline gave Jaleh the best and worst gift, where it's like, okay, she gave her the killer nomination where she's going to be nominated every week, but she also made it so that the public loves her. So she's basically nominated every week, so she's a victim, but the public loves her, so she's going to be safe. It's almost like that the power she gave to Helen to put her all the way to the end is like sort of backfire. I don't know if that's why people don't like Helen, but it's like Helen's going to go all the way to the end, but nobody likes her. But Jaleh is going to go to be nominated every single week, but the public is going to love her because of that.
And I do think in both those cases the personality has something to do with it. I think if Pauline had nominated Danielle, I think Danielle's reaction would not have been as gracious and laid back as Jaleh's was. So I think Jaleh's overall reaction is actually helping with that. Because Danielle, if she had received the killer nomination, I don't think she would have handled it nearly as graciously, and she would probably actually be gone. And like Helen, I was actually at the very beginning happy. I was like okay with the fact that Pauline gave Helen the free pass to the finals, but just over the course of the week, the way she was acting, I was like, kind of wish that she'd get voted out.
Okay, so how about the game or the theme this week, which was the power of positive thinking? Now, this was certainly new to me. Do they do this every week?
Yeah, every week they'll usually have some sort of shopping task that will span at least a couple of days, and if they pass the shopping task, they get a luxury shopping budget, and if they fail the task, they get much more of a bare bones Spartan shopping budget. And there's literally like a Big Brother catalog that they have to go through as a group and say, I want 3 pounds of ground beef, 3 kilos of ground beef, or whatever they use, and they have to keep track of the actual total amount. And I remember a couple summers ago, there was one girl who was pretty sure she was going home, and they sent her into the diary room with their menu, and she replaced everything on their shopping task with chocolate and Nutella. And so she basically spent their entire shopping budget on potato chips and chocolate and junk food because she was pretty sure she was going home that week.
And then did she?
Yeah, she did.
Okay. All right. Well.
And no cigarettes. That's the thing. The cigarettes that they have in the house are also part of their shopping budget. And so she also removed all of the cigarettes from the shopping list and replaced that with more chocolate.
Whoa. Okay. Well, that'll get you sent home.
Yeah. It was a great moment. I'll tweet out the link to the listeners. It's a great thing to watch. It's just awesome.
Do you prefer this shopping task business during the week to the have not business that we do on North American Big Brother?
To me, it depends on actually what the challenge is. I mean, I like the fact that lots of times they have to. I mean, you potentially get Helen or Pauline and Jaleh having to work together on something. I guess you would potentially see that on a have not competition as well. But I kind of like the fact that it spans several days and it's often a little bit more of a mental challenge than a physical challenge or a how much can I put up with challenge, and it's a little bit more random. I like the fact that Christopher and Danielle had to have a positive camping trip overnight, and then the moment they get in the tent, it starts raining inside their plexiglass tents. And I just thought, I think it's a lot more creative.
What was your favorite task that they had to do this week?
My favorite task, and I saw it was actually something they did in Big Brother Australia last fall. And it wasn't part of the shopping task. It was the very first task of the week where if they passed it, they got the ingredients for a nice dinner. It was the task where Pauline and Christopher, I believe, were in the diary room, and everybody else was out in the backyard and had to organize themselves from most to least on one of 3 scales. and Pauline and Christopher had to say, okay, did they just arrange themselves in terms of most to least obnoxious, most to least successful, or most to least power hungry? And so basically just looking on the order, they had to guess how did they arrange themselves? What was the list by which they were arranging themselves? And it worked really well in Big Brother Australia, and I really enjoyed watching it on the UK one.
Amazing Race Know-It-All in the chat room says the electric shock task is always the best. Does that happen often on Big Brother UK?
Yeah, I think it pretty much happens every season that I can think of, and I'm guessing it may not be the last time that we see it.
Which has been your favorite electric shock moment of 2014? Electric shock treatments on Big Brother UK or on Opposite Worlds?
Oh, I refresh my memory on the Opposite Worlds.
They had to grab the cattle prod, and that was when Jesse knocked the guy off and broke his leg.
The very first challenge, worldly challenge or whatever. That one. Because nobody I think because of the joy on Luke Tipple's face when he got to say electric cattle prod, I think that right there was that was great.
Okay. Emily M wants to know, does Kurt think that Pauline is a bully? She's picked on Christopher and Jolly, the only two people that have stood up to her.
You know what? I think I said earlier that Jolly was being bullied, or at least I think she's being picked on. I don't want to throw around the word bully too freely, but I do think that Pauline is singling them out to be treated negatively, and I think it is, as she said right there, that it's probably because they're not willing to just follow her blindly, and they're the ones that will, try to have been countering what she's saying, or just don't blindly accept what she says.
Let's talk about some of the people in the house, and let's just sort of just go around the Big Brother world and talk about some of the people that have been, in the mix, and a lot of people have just been sort of like totally, almost invisible. Let me just go through how about I'll just go alphabetical order down the list. Ash. Any thoughts on Ash? Yeah, he's just there. He basically, we saw him a little bit during that he had something, he had to rank the women by order of attractiveness.
Yes. He had to rank them, but to get his luggage. And there's the other challenge where I think he and Marlon were up against Tamara and I can't remember who. Go back to my notes, but where they were competing for their luggage at that point. They had all those props and basically had to be it was Tamara and Toya, and like which pair could be the most disgusting to get their luggage back. They had like the fish guts they could pour over themselves, and other than that, he's just kind of been a non-entity.
What about Ashley?
You know what? A little bit of a snooze fest.
Snooze fest.
I think so.
What's the difference between a snooze fest and a non-entity?
Screen time.
Screen time.
A non-entity doesn't get screen time. A snooze fest gets screen time, but they're just kind of there.
Okay. All right. So Chris, he is the new member of. He's on the power trip this week. Yep. Other than people not liking his VT, how did you think he did in his first week?
I think I was saying earlier that I was a little surprised that he got the power because he didn't seem to be featured a whole lot after nominations. I think prior to nominations, he was on there quite a bit, especially when it was Helen and Tamara and Pauline talking negatively about him. And then that kind of turned around really quickly. Like I was surprised that he almost was the only person to get no nominations.
Yeah. I really was surprised that it was him that got the or the power trip over somebody like Jolly or somebody who seems to be more of a fan favorite.
Yeah, or I was thinking that what they might do, and I think they might have even talked about it a little bit in the house today, was like one of the two people who escapes eviction tonight. So in this case, it would have been Jolly and Danielle. That one of those two gets voted into the power position because they get to stick around. I thought that might be how they handled it, but unless I'm surprised that Jolly didn't get it, to be honest. Okay.
What about Christopher?
You know what?
He had a lot of drama this week.
He had a lot of drama. I started out really liking Christopher, but there's something about the way that he talks, and he's just very indignant, and he doesn't pause at all, and he's kind of very emphatic when he talks, and he talks like this, and he seems very
offended, Christopher. Little,
What was that?
I feel like he might be a little high strung.
Yes, he has this kind of like preacher lecturing voice that he projects out, like when he's trying to get a point across, and he kind of seems to go into this little almost catatonic zone when he's trying to get a point across, and but like I saw his point where he was saying that you know, it was a little bit, he thought it was a little bit ridiculous for Pauline to reward Mark and Helen again, and he seems to be giving the day to people, the night to people who came in for the second round. He seems to be giving them more of a chance than some of the other folks in the house were. So I was like warming up to him for that. But I don't know, there was one point where he was going back into the bedroom and Helen was saying something about boring or something. I didn't quite catch what was going on there, but it seemed like several of the housemates were like yelling or chanting at him that he was boring or something. I don't know.
Okay, so just a clarification. Ryan in the chat room says that the nominated housemates are not eligible to become the power housemate, so that could explain why Chris, out of all those people, got it. And it seems like there's almost like in Big Brother Canada this past season where we had the first 5, there's a definite division between the night 1 people and the night 2 people, even though not all the night 2 people necessarily get along with each other. But Christopher is certainly the main night 1 person that's defected against the rest of the night 1 group, which for the most part seems pretty tight, maybe outside of Danielle.
I agree, and I think I'd say Danielle, and then maybe third Kimberly. Then like Matthew, even though he was put into that seclusion on night 1, seems to have reintegrated just fine. I don't think he's really been in any danger. And I think on the flip side, I think Toya seems to have become pretty close with Pauline, and Ash seems to be, at least seems to be kind of held in high regard as well by the house. So, but definitely Jaleh and Chris and Ashley are definitely a little bit more on the outs.
Okay, let's talk about Danielle. And she had a very up and down week. You know, she was very put off by all of the sex talk in the house. I mean, Kurt, for Big Brother UK, is that an abnormal amount of sex talk that was happening?
I wouldn't say so. And you know, we're probably getting the same amount on Big Brother US. It's just that you see so much more of what goes on in the live feeds. You're probably seeing some of that.
Does the public in the UK not like the sex talk?
I don't think it's that at all, to be honest. Are you like wondering like why Danielle ended up staying? Is that kind of what you're?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to get a sense of, like, because what people had said coming into this was like, oh, Big Brother UK, they are much less puritanical than American television. There's a lot more, you know, nudity or sex talk or all these like adult topics. And then I certainly felt like we were getting that this week, but I felt like Tamara was at the center of a lot of it. Danielle didn't like it. Danielle stays, Tamara leaves. And I'm wondering if the public if this was a referendum on the dirty talk.
I don't think it was. Again, unfortunately, just the way the show works, it's not like we can't talk to person X about why they voted out person Y. We can't interview the UK public to find out en masse why tonight's results happened, how they happened. But I still think I really do think that Danielle stuck around because she very quickly realized that her reaction to being nominated was ridiculous and that she said something she shouldn't have said. She came to this self-realization that she needed to apologize, and then when she kind of tried to be the bigger person and apologize to Helen would basically shut her down and said she was going to have none of it. And it wasn't until later that Helen kind of went back to her and apologized. I do think that might have been a turning point for why Danielle stayed, when she vocally took ownership for her behavior, which is something you don't see often in reality TV.
I thought Danielle had a weird look tonight on the eviction show, I gotta say.
The bathrobe and the high hair?
Her hair was weird, and I feel like she was wearing a bathrobe. I don't really, it seemed like that she was like not ready for the show tonight.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, and she was sitting next to Ashley, and Ashley kind of had the same thing going on with her hair, so I didn't know if it was a solidarity thing, and maybe she had this big reveal of something skimpy or complete nudity or ice whipped cream.
You think that's what it was? You think she was gonna like be like a flasher after she got evicted?
She was gonna go all Lady Godiva down the stairs, and I have no idea. And again, in this, I mean, the nice thing about this is if we can, they leave the house immediately. They don't go into sequester. Yeah, if Danielle gets evicted, maybe we can ask her.
Can we call shenanigans on the whole Danielle thing? Like, there's so many weird things about her. It's like she has these very controversial opinions, okay? She also has all of these, scandalous photos that are out there. She comes into the Big Brother house and says, I am going to be anti-smooching, I don't want dirty talk in the house. And she's like this, has these really very strict views about what God wants in the Big Brother house. And also she dated somebody from Big Brother last year, and they talk about it on the show. It wouldn't surprise me if she gets voted out and is like, does some sort of crazy reveal like she's going to get naked and like she was punking the whole world.
Yeah, she's very sexual, but she's not into sex.
It's a big contradiction. Yeah. I don't know what's going on there with Danielle. Something's off.
She's, like I said, she's an enigma.
Yeah. Okay. So Natalie Franklin says Danielle just had a dress on underneath the robe. They generally only bring one eviction dress, and she didn't want to show it unless she had to. Okay. All right. So I don't. I'm just trying to get a read on this. I'm a stranger in a strange land, Kurt Clark. I am I'm an American podcaster in a British reality show.
The real thing doesn't. This is the first time I've ever seen anybody like hide their eviction dress. So that seems strange to me. I mean, I'm pretty sure, yes, she was clothed underneath it, but maybe there have been other episodes in past seasons that I hadn't seen where somebody wanted to make that big reveal or what have you. But Danielle also seemed pretty sure she was going home.
Yeah.
So.
And I don't want to be judgmental on her views. That's not what I'm doing at all. I just don't I feel like if I'm charting okay, she likes this, she likes this, she likes this, but this is over here and this is over here. It's just it doesn't compute right now for me.
Oh no, yeah, no, it's a frustration in trying to understand her views that's coming across.
Yeah. And the fact that she dated a previous, it's like she's not a stranger to how this works,
Right.
So I wonder how much of this is calculated. I don't know what people do when they go on the UK Big Brother. All right. Helen, we've talked about it at length. Can Helen rebound from this?
You know what? I think that she can. I mean, just the fact that she sat down with Danielle and they kind of had what I think was an apology session back and forth, where there was even one point where she was seemed like she was apologizing, and Danielle said, no, that's okay, and Helen goes, no, it's not okay. I should not have said some of these things, and but then again, I'm curious to see tomorrow how Helen reacts to Tamara having been booted, and if she holds Danielle at all accountable for that. I mean, obviously it was not Danielle's not voting, but I think Pauline was shocked, Helen was shocked. Earlier in the week, Steven said he'd bet a £250,000 or something on the fact that Tamara was not going to go home, even though then a couple days later he kind of said, I'm a little bit worried that she's going to go home. Winston, who's his? Is he the kiss of death? Is
literally.
Yeah.
All right. We've talked about Jolly quite a bit tonight, so let's go to Kimberly. And I feel like Kimberly has been a little bit of a enigma for me as well. She's a little hard to read. I feel like she was a lot of airtime in the first night, and then I feel like she's sort of been a little MIA to me.
Right, and I wouldn't be surprised if things had if the trajectory from the first set of nominations had continued, I wouldn't have been surprised if she was like up in the next few weeks, because I think there is some feeling by some of the first nighters that she's a little bit standoffish. I really liked her in the first night. A little bit of an iceberg this week. I mean, she just doesn't seem to. She's being very diplomatic and just isn't seem to be putting herself out there a whole lot.
Okay. Well, we would like it if she would put herself out there a little bit more. How about, okay, let's talk about Mark, who, of course, got 5,000 pounds the first night. But, you know, he's a little all over the place, too, because he was very anti-Jolie, and he was very, you know, he was tight with Pauline, but then he sort of reversed his opinion. So what's your take on Mark and where he is? He's
extremely entertaining. I didn't think I was going to like him at first, but I mean the fact that he was even saying tonight, he really kind of hoped that of the three people that Danielle was going to go home, because he's grown to like Jaleh, and he's also acknowledged he doesn't want to tell Pauline that because he knows how Pauline would react to that. So he's living a little bit in fear of Pauline as well. He cost them a point on their positive thinking task by crying when they took away everybody's makeup, which I thought was funny. And then he had like the old splits on the balance beam where he just kind of fell in the most uncomfortable way during that one obstacle course challenge.
And now he talks like Mariah Carey? Is that what happened?
I don't know if his voice could have gone higher from before to after, so...
I feel like there's a storm coming, and I don't want there to be any drama in the house. Like, why is his voice like so up, and every other word is like a roller coaster, Kurt?
And like, yeah, take that and then fast forward. Like I don't know. He's entertaining. So I think he's going to be around for a while.
Okay, let's talk about Marlon. Is it Marlon or Marlon?
I think it's Marlon.
Okay.
I think every pronunciation I remember hearing has said Marlon, but I could be wrong. A little bit of a non-entity, I think, and I mean, not to overuse that word. It didn't seem to like learn a lot about him this week.
A little bit of a feud with Toya. She doesn't like that he touches himself inappropriately.
Oh yeah, he got nominated because he touched himself. And
hey, I know a guy that did that, and he won Big Brother.
There you go.
Yeah. He also took a fish bath.
Yes. Yep. He got gunged in fish guts.
Okay. Then we also have Matthew, who, you know, got a lot of airtime on the first night, got punished.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think he ranked himself as number one on the obnoxious list. When they were
I like Matthew. To me he's like the Pete Campbell of BBUK.
Yeah, I think he seemed very camera shy and in shock on the first night. And it's funny, like he basically has. I still remember, like when they were letting him out of that isolation chamber, the isolation box, that he was basically swearing revenge on Pauline. I think he's all but since forgotten that. But I think he was shocked by the crowd at first, but I think he's come back down to earth and is acclimating okay.
Okay. We've talked a lot about Pauline. We're pretty sure she's out next. Okay. How about Steven, who I actually, I thought he was going to be a huge douche in the house, but I actually like Steven quite a bit, and I feel like he might be my favorite of the guys.
Yeah, he's a lot more humble than I thought he would be. Like there was one of the things they had to rate themselves on was success in that ranking challenge again, and he allowed himself to be put at number 2. He allowed Kimberly to be placed ahead of him, but he didn't fight for that.
He is the Spencer Bledsoe of Big Brother UK, where he came in and his VT, I'm going to be, all these people are idiots and I have so much money. But then he comes into the house and he was like sort of just like a nice or a decent guy.
Yeah. And I think the only big thing we saw was that on the night that Danielle was nominated, it wasn't just Danielle and Helen that were kind of going at it, but Steven got in the mix as well a little bit. I think it was Steven that reported back to Helen that
Yes.
Danielle said that she was a slag.
Okay. Yeah. Now, was that actually said?
I think what Danielle said was the reason she got nominated was because she wasn't a slag. I think
Yes.
that's what was said.
Okay. A
And I
little bit of
think even
telephone game.
yeah.
Telly.
And then, yes. Well, Pauline's not in there to tell people that they shouldn't say things that they didn't actually say. So,
Okay. So then, Toya.
I liked Toya a lot the first night, but not sure I'm liking her as much now. um, she seems to be kind of growing into,
Team
Pauline's right hand.
Pauline Jr.
Pauline Jr. Yeah, Paulette.
Okay. How about Winston? Winston, this is interesting to see where he lands now.
Yeah, Tamara was saying that she likes her men dumb and good looking.
Yeah.
And like he still reminds me of Maddie from Big Brother 9.
I feel like Winston. I was surprised. I felt like Winston. Was it just me? I feel like Winston did not have a lot of game up in the skybox. I felt like it seemed like
is that a euphemism?
Up in the treehouse, Kurt.
Again, is that sorry? Okay.
Come on, Danielle is
Sorry.
watching. She's gonna get pissed.
Sorry. But at the same time, he seemed out of his element more so.
Mhm.
Like, well, actually, no, I don't know about that because like even when, he and Tamara were having conversations and, like Tamara was asking, well, how many of your girlfriends have you cheated on? And he's like 0. It's like he basically from what I could tell based on the clips, he's had 3 girlfriends, not a lot of relationships in between the girlfriends, and he's been loyal to his girlfriends.
Yeah. So is he all talk?
I think he might be all talk, but he seems like a nice person. Like he hasn't said, there was the question earlier about that or the comment that Tamara went because people didn't like Winston. I don't get the impression that there's anything that unlikable about Winston necessarily. A little bit doofy or whatever you want to say, but he didn't necessarily have a lot of game.
Okay. All right. So let's take a couple more questions here. Peggy Jean Lewis wants to say, just finished watching the eviction episode, and I love it. So glad you got me watching this show, Robin Kurt. All right, there we go.
Yeah, I think if people give, again, my whole mission with this was I want people to give BBUK a shot who may not have seen it before, who may have had preconceptions about it or just may not have known it existed. Understand it's something completely different from BBUS, but give them something to watch to tide them over in the weeks until BBUS starts. And I do think that if people give it through the first eviction, they'll see why it can be so enjoyable to watch. And I may be alone in this, but for instance, Tamara, first person to go, I feel like, and I said this in the last show, I feel like I know a lot more about her than I do on many of the contestants who have made it to the ends of some of the BBUS shows. You get to learn a lot more about the people just for the way that the house interacts with them.
Carlos V says, Rob, this being your first BBUK you were watching, how are you liking that nomination process and the way some house guests try to get others nominated, like how Pauline is doing with Christopher? Yeah, I don't mind it. I feel like it's definitely a different game. I'm not looking at it like the same thing as BBUS in the same way I look at Big Brother Canada, where Big Brother Canada is basically the same game as BBUS, and sometimes I feel like, the manipulation with all of the and Big Brother Canada 2, I've sort of relaxed how I think about it, where Big Brother Canada 1, I was more a little bit up in arms about some of the twists that they were doing. But, Big Brother Canada 2, I sort of went with okay, well, whatever, this is a little different than Big Brother US, and I'm sort of looking at Big Brother UK as a totally different animal of Big Brother US. The thing that has sort of popped out to me is, boy, how badly did they do Big Brother US 1? Because, man, that was boring. That was a boring ass show. and I watched it, boy. And I do not think that this is boring, and I actually enjoy this. I like to, I will try to, as I'm doing work, stuff that I don't have to concentrate too much on, then it's fun to have this on in the background.
Yeah, and like true confession time, Circle of Trust. I never saw BB2 US because BB1 bored me so much, and so I didn't actually pick up again until BB3.
We have to go back, Kurt.
Yeah, back to the island. Yeah, it's the nominations are interesting, especially if you look at like it wasn't a surprise to me that Danielle was nominated, but the nominations were literally all over the board. You had, Danielle with, I think it was like, or Jaleh with was it 5 votes, and I think Danielle and Tamara each had 4 votes, and then you had a ton of people. Everybody else had 1 vote against them. So you start to see more things like that, and and not to get ahead of things, but like in Big Brother Australia, it even gets more interesting because each week one person has a secret nomination superpower, which varies from week to week. So one of the people who nominates 1 week, the person with the superpower might get to cancel the nominations of any other player, or might get to have instead of 2 nominations, they might get 5 nominations or something like that, and points to spread around. So I think the overseas versions handle the way they handle the nominations is a lot more interesting.
All right. So next week at some point, we will get some more BB UK coverage. Maybe it'll be with me. Maybe it'll be with Kurt. And Kurt, are you interviewing people for potential Big Brother UK reporting duties?
I feel like some people have come out of the woodwork expressing interest. I feel like we could do a whole web series on the podcast Apprentice or something, and it could just put people through the paces, which would be kind of fun and sadistic. But yeah, several people have come out and offered up their help, and we could very well and very likely be dipping into that pool for some help in the near future.
Okay. Well,
while I appreciate you watching this, I also realize it's a huge commitment, and I feel bad that you get sucked in.
But this is before the BBUS is happening, so I sort of have a little bit of some more free time that I probably won't have in a couple of weeks. But I would say if somebody is very serious about this, I feel like much like getting on Survivor Big Brother, I want to see a video on YouTube of somebody talking about this.
There we go.
Yeah, I feel like that's the move. Video on YouTube, tweet it to myself and Kurt Clark, and that's a good way to get in the mix here for potential reporting duties.
I feel we're about to get rickrolled several times.
That's fine. I love getting rickrolled. All right, there you go. Okay, so let's just touch base on a couple other quick things. Okay, Kurt, you have been very excited with the number of ballots we've been getting for the all-time Survivor Top 20 list. Is that true?
Yes, and as you're saying that, I'm quickly pulling up the current tally, and we are at almost 5,200 votes.
Whoa.
5,200 ballots cast.
Okay, so we have officially are almost about to get 10 times more ballots than we had for the original Survivor Top 20.
Right, and I've been checking in periodically to do ballot cleansing, and except for actually, 1 or 2 very persistent people, people have actually been doing pretty good about not trying to game the system.
Good. All right, so I'm very excited about that. Of course, the Big Brother US is just around the corner. If you want to get in on the Big Brother live feed bingo and attempt to win $500. When you get 5 in a row for Big Brother Live Feed Bingo, the first round of Live Feed Bingo cards are going out on June 17th. So if you want to get in on the Big Brother Live Feed Bingo, you can find out all the information at robhasawebsite.com/bingo and find out how to get your live feeds through robhasawebsite.com and how to redeem your Big Brother Live Feed Bingo card. Awesome. All right. Can we update the Big Brother Live Feed Bingo cards with somebody calls somebody a slag?
Sure. Or how about references a non-U.S. version of Big Brother?
Well, I think a Big Brother Canada. I think that's going to be definitely a easy check mark. Yeah. Okay. How about somebody is being recidivist?
Yes, someone is being recidivist.
Yeah. Oh, and how about somebody calls somebody a bastard and pisses in the kitchen?
I can give that my seal of approval.
Okay, there you go. All right, so we've got a lot here to do here on RHAP. I just recorded a Last Comic Standing podcast earlier today, so I'll have that up as well. Kurt, you following the Last Comic Standing?
I just watched yet last night's episode today.
Okay.
Thought they made it a little bit too easy to tell who was going to get a pass to the next round.
Yeah, basically, if you got a lot of screen time, you were moving on. But what are you gonna do? Yeah. All right, so that's Last Comic Standing. Lots more to do with Big Brother UK. Big Brother US got a another big Survivor interview coming up next week as well. That is looking like it's going to be in person here at my house. So very, very fun stuff coming up. So have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon.